and welcome everybody to the Toilets of Titles podcast. My name is George. I am your host this evening. With me is also my boy Justin. Justin, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. Had a great day, much better than yesterday. So for those of you that saw me yesterday, I was having a little bit of a rough day. I kind of felt like I mailed in the episode last night, so I apologize. We came back strong tonight, though, for you, especially for our Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/toilets-titles. We got a special guest for you tonight, George. You were able to hook this up, so thank you very much. I don't know what just happened there.
We lost George. There he is. He's back.
I was saying I don't know what happened either. I'm sitting here and then Justin kicked me off.
That wasn't me. I didn't touch it.
So I want to go ahead and introduce our guest. We have a very special guest, Mr. OJ McDuffie. So
all right.
I don't know what's happening here. It's live technical difficulties, I guess. We're having a great time. As I was saying, our guest is a former Penn State Nittany Lion wide receiver and also Miami Dolphin great. And I emphasize the word great, OJ McDuffie. OJ, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, George. I am doing great, man. And Justin, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. You know, it's always a good week when your favorite team comes off a win on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whatever it might be. So I'm doing great, buddy.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with OJ McDuffie here, I'm going to run through real quick a little bit of his background. It's an absolute stellar background. We were talking about it earlier. I am a huge fan, so in the inside I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to power through this. You played for Penn State. You also played for the Miami Dolphins, as I mentioned. You were drafted in the first round, pick number 25 in the 1993 draft by the Miami Dolphins. Currently, you sit fourth all-time in receptions in Miami Dolphins history, fifth all-time in receiving yards. You retired in the year 2000. Fun fact, you caught more passes from Dan Marino than any wide receiver not named Mark. And for those that don't know, that would be Clayton.
Young crowd. You never know what a young crowd, George.
That's why I had to tell him. You are the host of the weekly podcast, The Fish Tank, Tales from the Deep, as part of the Miami Dolphins podcast network. Excuse me. You also are you're assuming a practicing real estate agent.
Yes. Well, my wife's my quarterback now, man. She's the quarterback. Okay. I'm just a slot receiver still when it comes to that, you know.
All right. So you're with a real estate agent with Compass, and you are the founder of the Catch 81 Foundation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So I'm a big charity guy, as Justin knows. Anybody who goes to my Twitter handle, they can see my twin Pete, my pinned tweet, excuse me, is a picture of all the toys we donated to Toys for Tots last year. I do it every year. I've raised over $25,000 for Toys for Tots in the last 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
So any chance I get to talk about somebody's charity or charity in general, that's where I'm going to go to right away. Can you talk a little bit about the Catch 81 Foundation, what they do, how people can donate to this organization and get behind this cause?
Yeah, man, that's great. That's great to hear, George, man, because honestly, that's what we really all need to do in life, man, is give back. You know, I mean, look, everybody has a lot of things going in their life, but we're never worse than the worst person in this world, man. So a lot of times for us, it's imperative that we give something back. And for me, you know, my mom always told me this South Florida community and the communities I grew up in have done so much for me that it's a must that I give back. And so with Catch 81 Foundation, we give back to some of the kids in neighborhoods or, you know, in communities that are less fortunate than we are. Being blessed with a hell of a platform and, you know, being able to be down in Miami since 1993, you know, I've been given a lot of different opportunities, and it's important that I find ways to give back to the community that's been so good to me. So with us, we do a lot of different things to empower some of these kids that are a little less fortunate. We just had a Halloween party, the Signature Grand Ghoul, which had about 500 people, adults come out and donate and make some money that benefited our foundation as well as the Broward Health Foundation. We've got a toy drive coming up. Speaking of toys coming up, we have 2 of them coming up on December 5th and December 7th. And that's really what we love doing more than anything. We have a bowling event on President's Day weekend, which any of you guys should come down for it. that'll also be a way we generate funds where we have about 30 to 40 former players come out and bowl strikes or gutters or whatever it might be, depending on what their game level is about. And but no matter what, we go out, we try to raise money in the community, and then we try to give it back to the community, and then start all over again every single year.
That is absolutely awesome. I completely agree with the whole, if you're able to give back, you absolutely should. I'm actually doing a fundraiser this Friday. I'm going to a black tie Met Gala. It's a Tomorrow Never Dies gala. It's a James Bond theme.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where you pay an exorbitant amount of money for a really bad dinner. What I'm going to be doing this Friday night.
It's all about the cause, though, right, Joe? It's all about the cause.
It is 100% about the cause. That's the only reason I'm going.
Yeah.
The cause is for the Children's Advocacy Center of Brevard County. So I live in Brevard County. I'm up here by the Space Center. That's where I'm from. And me, my dad, my wife, my mother, and I also dabble. You'll get pictures of me in a tie, but my dad's my dad's a broker, a real estate broker. He's got his own company. I have a real estate license as well. We flip houses for a living, and our investor is the one who is inviting us to this dinner.
Nice.
So we're going. It's one of those silent auction type things where I probably ain't going to be able to afford to bid on a whole bunch of nothing, but I will give to the cause. So.
Right.
I absolutely agree with the sentiment of, if you have the opportunity to give back, it doesn't have to be a lot, $5, $10. Most importantly, you could give your time. You can't put a value on time. Even if you can go help one of these charities and donate your time, that actually probably goes a lot further than any type of monetary donations you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
the great late Jim Moran said that, man. Nothing more valuable than your time. A lot of people can stroke checks and give you some bucks, but if you can donate your time, that's invaluable.
Absolutely. Justin, you want to say something? Justin, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
I was going to say, I think it's great that OJ mentioned that that he's a real estate agent now, and then you had to subtly throw in that you flip houses. I don't know if that's going to be added DM to you later on or not, OJ. But just
he's got my information. We might be doing some work there,
So let's get into this. Here's something I've always wanted to know. What was April 25th, 1993? What was that day like for you?
It was a pretty incredible day. I mean, I'll tell you why. We talked about what I do foundation-wise, and most of the reason we do foundation-wise, because I was one of those kids growing up. I was one of those kids that didn't have a lot, single-parent homes, just me and my mom. So we do a lot of work with single-parent, homes here as well, or single moms, and of course, kids that are underserved. But as a child, you dream about playing in the NFL. I mean, I don't know of any other profession other than sports, really, that you start working on your craft at 5, 6, 7 years old. So when you're out there 5 or 6 years old in the front yard throwing the ball around with your cousin and your uncles, I'm an only child, so that's the only people I could throw around with, or some of my friends. You dream about being in the NFL, and so then you work your tail off, you work your butt off all those years, not necessarily to play in the NFL at that point. For me, it was like playing hard enough to be able to play for my junior high team, and then being good enough to play for my high school team. And then once high school hit, I started getting letters for college. I said, well, hell, I can get an education, which my mom was big on, and I can go to college as well, and using this platform, this sport. And then when I got to Penn State, it was amazing that, once I got to my junior year, I was going to have an opportunity to realize that childhood dream and playing in the NFL. I almost came out a year early to see, where, to go pro, because a lot of times guys like myself, we need to get out and make the money for the family. We really do. My mom and Joe Paterno said, well, let's just see where you're going to go in the draft, and maybe you leave now, or, if it's too late in the draft, you come back for another year. So we found out it was going to be a solid second round pick. And so I talked to Joe and my mom, and they said, well, I'm going to go back. And so I went back to Penn State for my senior year. And sure enough, man, had a nice year, had a really solid team. And like you talked about, man, that day, that day in April when I was the 25th pick in the draft, it was like that whole childhood dream was realized, and I pretty much lost my mind. Back when I got drafted, it wasn't as bad as Bob Greasy. I think Bob Greasy got like a telegram or something, but for us, when I got drafted, it was a Sunday. The first round was on Sunday afternoon. There was no, prime time like they do it now on Thursdays. So that Saturday night, I was actually at Penn State because they had their spring game, and I was just enjoying pretty much my last day of college life, and I had a blast. And then I live in Cleveland, Ohio, so that next morning I got up and I drove over to my mom's house in Cleveland, and I knew I wasn't going to be a top 5, top 10, top 15 pick, so I had a little bit of time. So when I got to my mom's house, I laid down and took a nap. I was so exhausted, bro. It was like unbelievable how tired I was, man. And so we get to, where I was projected to go around 22nd. So my mom woke me up around pick 19. No phone calls, obviously, because I would have woke up earlier than that. So there were no surprises for me. But 22 came around, the San Diego Chargers, and I thought I was going there, and they didn't pick me. They picked a DB out of, I want to say out of Stanford. And then, 23, 24, and then 25 comes around. I hadn't even talked to the Miami Dolphins, but I got a call, and it was Don Shula. And Coach Shula asked me, would you like to be a Miami Dolphin? And my response, of course, was hell yeah. Who the hell wouldn't want to be a Miami Dolphin? I mean, honestly, for me as a when I was thinking about the draft, I wanted to do a few things, right? I want to go close to home, which is the Cleveland Browns, is my home team, right? I want to go close to my school, possibly, which was, Pitt or Philly. Or as a wide receiver, I wanted to go warm. So I got warm, I got Don Shula, and I got Dan Marino. Hell yeah, I was excited to go to Miami for as a first round draft pick, definitely.
I wonder what Coach Shula's response would have been if you would have said, no, I wouldn't be excited to be in Miami Dolphins.
Nah, yeah, I'll pass on that, Coach. You know what I mean? Try somebody else, man. I'm gonna wait for the second round, see if something better comes around. You know what I mean?
I'm waiting for the Browns.
that is strange. So you touched on something I was curious about a little bit. You said you hadn't really talked to the Dolphins. Like, were they just not showing any interest, or did they just like maybe do like one interview and then that was enough, or like how much interest did they actually show before they drafted you?
They didn't show a lot at all. As a matter of fact, they were at my pro day. Like all the teams, most of the teams were at my pro day, which is at Penn State. I didn't work out at Combine. I did talk to about 10 teams in Indianapolis at Combine. I didn't do workouts there. The Dolphins were not one of those teams that I talked to. So I don't know if they weren't showing their hand or what it was, man, but they caught me completely off guard. And I think a lot of times I joke about it down here, living in Miami now. I talk to, people all the time. And they say, well, when I was playing against the University of Miami back in the 90s, I had some big time games against them. And I think the Dolphins might have shown up to watch those guys from UM play, and they saw me kicking their butt. And they said, wait a minute, maybe we need to get this guy right here and not worry about some of these guys from the U, man. So I think that might have swayed him a little bit. On top of that, I understand that Joe Paterno and Don Shula were pretty good friends, so that probably helped out as well.
Yeah, if you look at coaching trees to go from as far as college to professional, like it does not get very much better than that. Like, Joe Pa to Coach Shula, that's a hell of a coaching tree to go from college to the pros from. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I got 2 winners coaches in both leagues. Not to mention I had my first head coach was my Uncle Homer, who was incredible, and then my high school coach Cliff Walton was equally impressive. So I've had some Hall of Fame coaches all my whole life.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I will say, I think that draft pick worked out for both you and the Dolphins. I'm just gonna throw that.
So I hope some people feel. It's so funny because I remember back then, and there were a lot of people that weren't excited about me getting picked by the Dolphins. That people down here, so it really took a little time for me to prove myself and get their approval. But it happened pretty fast, man. Taking my first kickoff back, in the preseason against the Atlanta Falcons, taking my punt back against a few weeks later on Sunday Night Football, another one on Monday Night Football. They kind of liked me pretty quick that rookie year, and that's hard for a lot of guys to to get that type of acknowledgement. And that's the one thing that we all covet as rookies, especially first round picks, is that acceptance from the fan base and especially from your teammates.
If I'm not mistaken, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, like your first season, your rookie season, you were mostly like special teams, right? You didn't get a whole bunch of playing time at the wide receiver position, at least not that I recall.
No, I didn't play much at all. And, so that's where I had to, do my job in return guy. I think that was one of the main reasons. And Coach Mike Westhoff, the special teams coordinator, was one of the big time reasons that I got drafted by the Dolphins as well. Because look, we just parted ways with Mark Clayton. We traded him for a second round pick, and we ended up picking up Urban Fryer. Mark Duper was still in camp. We picked up Mark Ingram in free agency. We had Tony Martin, Scott Miller. We were stacked at wide receiver position. So really my only fit at that point was to return kicks and punts. And that's what I did, and I enjoyed it. I really did. I mean, that's what I did at Penn State. I loved it, and I think that was one of the reasons they wanted to get me, and then eventually work me into the offense. This is what happened. A year and a half, later, I was starting, opposite Urban Fryer, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I think that's an underrated. I think it's underrated how important like getting playing time on special teams can be for some players. Like I know, at least nowadays, like coming into the league, a lot of high draft, like if you're picking the first round, like you really don't want to play special teams. You want to come in and you want to be a starter right away. Right. But I think earning the way through special teams is an invaluable lesson. Like, because special teams, it's not easy. It's a lot of work that goes into that aspect of the game. And it's not like you have a whole bunch of time to warm up, get your rhythm, get a feel for the game, the flow of the game and all that. Like it's bam. Okay. You're out there and you're done. And you might not go back in and get another opportunity to do anything on the field for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. There are a lot of guys on special teams that never played special teams. A lot of guys in the NFL, they were starters at some school they went to or some league they came out of. They were all starters, so they didn't really have to worry about teams. But when you get to the league, the best of the best, when you're sitting number 3 on the depth chart, you better run your ass down there on kickoff. You better be on punt return team, or you won't have a position on the football team. When you only dress out 47 guys a game, the 22, the starters, they're going to be chilling. While the other 25 better figure out a way to to make their their mark, and it's usually on special teams. Imagine like some of these offensive guys that have to go down and learn how to tackle somebody. That's a headache waiting to happen, man. Those dudes don't know how to tackle, but they learn it. And they learn it, and if they learn it well, they'll stay in the league for a long time. And some guys have figured it out that way.
Yeah, you come up and you're the best player on the team in high school, one of the best players on the team in college. And when, like you said, you get to the pros, it's like now you're like 3rd or 4th in the depth chart because while you were the best for where you came from, now you're playing with like the top 1% of the top 1%. And yeah, earn the stripes on special teams. That's fantastic. I want to point out that you've been very blessed when you came into the league and drafted by the Dolphins. You made the playoffs every single year except for 2 years. 93, which was your rookie year, in 2006. And in 2006, Dolphins finished 8-8. You've never been on a team that had never finished with a sub 500 record. Like that is absolutely phenomenal. I'm giving you 100% of the credit for that. It's not going to be the guy throwing the ball. It's not the guy coaching, because the guy coaching had some sub 500 teams. The guy throwing the ball had some sub 500 teams. So we're not even going to acknowledge that it was them. The proof is in the pudding. The numbers don't lie. It was 100% from the minute they drafted O.J. McDuffie to the minute you retired, never below 500. So that's 100% a testament to your skill and ability and what you brought to the team.
Well, I appreciate that, George. But I mean, you do realize a year before I got that, they went to the AFC Championship game, right? I mean, that was.
Well, we're not talking about.
Not talking about that,
okay. 3 to 2000. That's the window right now. That's where we're talking.
I love it, bro.
So, what I'm going to segment to from that is, how do you feel about the current Dolphins? Because we went through some struggles the last 2 years. Really, we haven't struggled. We haven't made the playoffs, but we haven't struggled, right? Like Like we've had back-to-back winning seasons. We just didn't make the playoffs. But before that, we were like a floating around a 500 team, and then they just came in and they blew everything up and stripped it down to rebuild everything back up, which I feel personally as a fan that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But as a former player, how difficult is it to, like I mentioned, never had a sub 500 season, so you don't know what it's like to go through all those 2-15 teams or 2-3-14 teams and whatnot. But like, how difficult is it for the players to go through something like that, to have to be on a team that loses over and over again before you get the returns on your work to where now that they're winning?
Yeah, man. As a former player now and a big time fan, it's been tough. Look, I joke about it all the time, man. I've got a 20-year-old kid and a 14-year-old kid, and none of them have really seen winning Dolphin football, and that's pretty sad, if you think about it, man.
Yeah.
2002, on, we think we might have made the playoff, but my son was so young. He was born in 2002. I think we went to the playoffs, I don't know, somewhere right around there, but it wasn't a big deal. And then my youngest son, he's like, hell, I can't even give him sweet tickets to the Dolphin games, last few years. Now he'll go now because we're playing pretty well. So it's tough. It really is a tough struggle, man. But I tell you, I think they've got it figured out, man. I know they've got it figured out. Our new head man is totally impressive, man. Mike McDaniel is such a blessing and such a breath of fresh air. And I'm going to tell you this, I was a huge Flores fan, but I realized that what our team needed now is a guy like Mike McDaniel to get the most out of our QB1, Tua Tagovailoa. And so it's been really, really fun to see our team, finally, play the football that we come to expect around here. You talked about our playoff run. When I played, look, my rookie year, 93, that we did make it, we were 9-2 at one point. And we lost our last 5 games and missed the playoffs. So we had the best record in football after the Leon-led Thanksgiving Day, fiasco. We won that game, and then we didn't win another game after that. So that was our best team, and we still didn't get it done and didn't make the playoffs. But for now, though, you look at what we got going now, man, I think that we're on the right path. And Chris Greer deserves a lot of credit. Mike McDaniel deserves a lot of credit. But the fact that we were willing to stick with Tua Tagovailoa, go out and get a Tyreek Hill, draft a Jalen Waddle, draft a Mike Gesicki, go out there and get the guys and the assets that we have. It's been so much fun to watch. And who knows where we'd be? Everybody has injuries. If we didn't have the injuries of Tua, where would we be? We're 5-3 now. Who knows where we'd be right now? So I'm just excited now that we do have a team that is trending in the right direction. We've got a fan base down here that never stop rooting for our team and cheering for our team. Of course, we have a few people that were, didn't want to be a part of it. And, we'll welcome them back in the back of the train. But the fun of the train is for all those that stuck with the team all these years, So it's exciting, man. We've got the right combination right now. And I think the best thing and it still hasn't really panned out like it should, in my opinion, but the best thing that Mike McDaniel did was he kept our defense intact, starting with Josh Boyer, all the guys on defense. We got a lot of injuries over there, and they're still managing to go out there and work hard and try to get it done. But keeping that defense intact, revamping the offense, exciting offense and exciting game, play calls and everything. It's been a lot of fun down here finally and that's been that way in a long time.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that they did recently is they made a couple of trades. They brought in, gave up the first rounder from the 49ers for Bradley Chubb, and then they went out and traded a 5th-round pick for a guy who I feel can come right in and make an immediate impact on the offensive side of the ball at the running back position because he knows this system. He played with Mike McDaniel in San Francisco with Jeff Wilson Jr. And he's shown he's a pretty good running back. Like he's not the top echelon running back, but as much firepower as this team has on the offensive side of the ball and as much speed as they have, they don't need a Saquon Barkley or a Jonathan Taylor or an Ezekiel Elliott or somebody like that toting the rock because we got all this speed and all this firepower and explosiveness on the offensive side of the ball. But my question is how hard is it for an NFL player who gets traded in the middle of the season to come to a new team and to a new city and play like they were from the team and the city that they were playing in previously.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I didn't have that problem. Played all my 9 years with the Miami Dolphins, but I look at it this way: if I'm coming from Denver and going to Miami, if I'm coming from San Francisco and going to Miami, I got to be pretty excited about that. I mean, coming to Miami it's like an ideal situation for a lot of people. Wasn't necessarily a long time ago with football, but just coming to live in this city is like amazing. You know what I mean? And so I think that for the most part, you got a defensive end or outside linebacker in Bradley Chubb who you can plug and play. That position right there is plug and play. Get after quarterback, hold the edge. We got some stunts. We'll let you know what we're doing. You can do that. The guy for Cedric Wilson Jr., Jeff Wilson Jr., I said Cedric, Jeff Wilson Jr., you got an opportunity right there where he knows the system, familiar with Mike McDaniel, and he's a thumper. I was wondering why we didn't keep a thumper during training camp. We got a bunch of swifty backs, but sometimes you're going to need a thumper, 4-minute offense. You got to, get some tough yards and things like that. So I love the fact that we spent some of our capital to go out and get, the guys that we've gotten. Think about the last, the San Francisco trade that we had, and we went out and got, for the first one, we got Jalen Waddle.
Yep.
Last one, we got Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
This time we get Bradley Chubb, So can you tell me any first round pick that we could possibly get that'd be better than those guys right now? I don't think so. So it works out perfect. And I think the fact that Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel were seeing that San Fran's going to be pretty good this year, and they've been playing pretty good.
Yep.
They're going to have a late round draft pick, which belong to us. So with that being said, why not deal it and get a guy like Bradley Chubb, and bolster what we need to do, get a guy like Bradley Chubb opposite a guy like Jalen Phillips or Agba or even, Brandon Ingram, who are guys that we need to get after a guy up north in Buffalo named Josh Allen. And that's what the most important thing is.
Yeah, that pick from the San Francisco 49ers for this year is definitely going to be a late one, in my opinion.
Yep.
And you're not going to get an impact player like a Bradley Chubb who is getting ready. Like, he's only 26 years old.
Yep.
He's getting ready to start his prime.
Yep.
And if the Dolphins can extend him, like, we'll have him and Jalen Phillips through their prime. You got Javon Holland on the back end.
Oh, man.
Tyndall, the linebacker that they drafted last season. Like, I love what Brian Flores did for our defense. And I think as much as I loved what he did for the defense, I felt as a fan, the offensive side of the ball was completely neglected a lot.
1,000%.
And now you bring in, like you mentioned, Mike McDaniel, who is the offensive side of the ball, and keeping that defensive side intact. I absolutely am over the hill happy with what the Dolphins have done the last couple of years. Where is my next question? Okay, injuries. I'm not going to get into the Tua concussion thing. Like, we could do a whole podcast on concussions. Actually, me and Justin almost kind of did with Dr. Jesse Morse. He's a fantasy sports doctor. He's a licensed MD down in Miami.
Yeah, I got one I want to throw out there. If you need a little time here, I was curious because the NFL has changed so much since when you played. Like back when you played, the defense was allowed to hit the quarterback. Like, they were allowed to tackle. They were allowed to hit hard. When you were coming across the middle and you knew there was a linebacker waiting there for you, you still had to catch the ball because you knew there was no flag. Nowadays, they have that knowledge in the back of their head that it's probably going to be a flag, so you don't have to try quite as hard. This is all my opinion, obviously, but I feel like I'm right. Yeah. So I want to know who the hardest hitter was when you were going across the middle. Who was the one guy where in the back of your head you're just thinking, you know what, I'm going to catch this football because I know that's all I'm going to get good out of this.
Well, 1,000%. One thing you could not do back in the day was turn it down, no matter what. So, if you got, you're getting thrown the ball over the middle, which I thrived on, man. I lived over the middle, from the 10, 15-yard range. And you knew some guys were coming down to try to take your head off, man.
I'm well aware. I'm a Colts fan. I remember as a Colts fan, you had a few good ones on us too. That's why I asked this.
Yeah. I mean, I still hate the Colts because they were in our division. You know what I mean? They asked me about the guys I hate in our division. I hate the Colts still. They've been out of our division for a long time. I just call myself a Colt killer. I just enjoy that. You know why I didn't like the Colts though? Because my first punt that I fielded was against the Colts, and I fumbled it, and they picked it up and scored a touchdown on me. And ever since then, I vowed that every time I play against the Colts, I got to redeem myself for that one blunder. But back, like you said, back in the day though, I had a few guys. The guy that hit me the hardest was Mark Carrier from the Lions. He knocked me into the Monday afternoon. You know what I mean? The Sunday afternoon game, Miami, beautiful sunny day out. He hit me so hard it was like dark. It was dark, but I got up somehow and walked back to the huddle. I don't know where I don't know where the hell I was at that point. But he was the guy that hit me the hardest. Another guy that a lot of people might have heard about is a guy named Jason Sehorn. I don't know if you guys remember him. He's a cornerback for the Giants. Yep. He caught me trying to sneak a 7 route, with a 7 route with a 9 route combo, and I had the 7 route on the inside. He came off the 9 route and knocked the living daylights out of me, But those are the ones that that I remember the most, kind of, as far as my my recollection recalls. But hell, I had to worry about guys like Steve Atwater. You had to worry about guys like Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott was playing for the Jets my last couple of years, or my first few years, and he came in our division like, oh hell, this dude with these big ass shoulder pads gonna knock us out, So you always had to worry about that. But I'm gonna tell you what, the best thing I had to protect myself from all that was Dan Marino. Danny would never throw me into trouble, never throw me into traffic. So if I'm gonna get hit, if there's trouble over the middle for me, the ball's down and away where I get it, go down, and they can just tap me down. It would never be high where I got to reach up or stretch out and get laid out, man. So your quarterback sees all that, man. If you got a great quarterback like I had, he'll protect you over the middle. So, but now these guys can run through like scot-free, not worried about anything, man. And quarterbacks get away with some of these throws because of that fact. And they should never throw those throws ever. And that's why a lot of guys are getting their knees and stuff taken out instead, because that's what DBs are taught to do now, because they can't hit them high. So guys are getting hit low, and that's even a bigger problem.
Well, who is the best in the business at that right now in today's game?
And throwing the rock?
Yeah.
I got to go with no, man. You're gonna make me say this, Justin, man.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Josh Allen's the best in the game right now, man. He really is, man. He just combines so much with the ability to run, the strong arm, the knowledge of his offense. He's tough as hell, big as hell. He's got a bunch of nice weapons, man. But Josh he's killing it right now, man. And that's what we're striving to get to where he's at.
Right on.
Yeah. So, question we had here from Joe. If you want to pull it up real quick, he wants to ask about the fake spike.
Oh yeah.
What can you tell us about that fake spike?
Well, I don't know what week it happened in. It was mid-season, maybe later in the season, but that's Bernie Kosar's play. Bernie Kosar told us in meetings way early in the season that he's got this play that's going to work once and one time only. And sure enough, we found the right time against the Jets, against a rookie cornerback and Aaron Glenn, who I thought was going to try to get some get back last week from the Lions. He's a defense coordinator for them. I thought he was going to try to figure out a way to get back, because he's been part of history for so long. You know what I mean? But I tell you, Bernie told us, in our podcast, Fish Tank Podcast, that he's had that in every playbook that he's played at. So the Browns had that play in, the Cowboys had that play in, and then he brought it to us. And I guess opportunity presented itself for us to be able to do it. And so when I saw the opportunity present itself in that game, I was on the sideline. Mark Ingram, we were down in that game, and Mark Ingram was having a monster game. He'd already had 3 touchdowns in that game. And sure enough, Danny found him on that little stop route and for that touchdown. But man, we lost our minds because Bernie said it would work. We laughed at it in the meeting. And sure enough, when we needed it most, it worked like a charm.
Well, I think it takes a lot to that play. Like you said, you had the rookie defensive back, but you also got a guy in Dan Marino who went on to have a stellar acting career. So obviously we know he can play it off, right? So And honestly, I feel like
You didn't like Pet Detective, bro? I
no,
love
dude, I love it. As a matter of fact, I found a picture of you with Jim Carrey, and that was totally going to be my background, but I couldn't get it to fit right in the image. It wouldn't let me do it. I would love to hear about that actually, but I was going to mention, since we're talking about the fake spike, I feel nowadays a team could probably get away with that again because it's been far enough along. But I remember when it happened way back then, like it was. 10 years later, there were still guys that were lining up ready just in case.
Yeah.
These were ready. They were watching the ball. It was no more of that just standing around. They were about to get Marino'd.
Yeah, especially when you catch somebody, Justin. When you catch somebody in a 2-minute drill, they're looking for a little break. We were in a 2-minute drill. They're tired. You know what I mean? They're looking for a spike just so they can catch their breath and stuff, man. But no, we struck while their ass was, they were still, tongue was hanging out of their shoes and their mouths, you know what I mean? And
Right.
tired as hell. So it worked out perfect. Timing was perfect, bro.
So I've seen that play done a couple of different times. It very rarely never works. And I agree. In order for it to work, like you have to have the absolute perfect situation. All the stars have to be aligned, or else it's just not going to work.
Yeah, some guys throw that little quick out. I've seen that. I haven't seen it for a touchdown like we threw it, to win the game. Some guys might throw the quick out or something like that. And I think every team now probably instructs all their wideouts to run the quick outs no matter what. And the quarterback decides he wants to throw it because the DB's off, they'll throw it, get yourself 5 yards. But for the most part, they are spiking it now. Peyton Manning's try some other different ways to be creative with that sort of thing, but now, I mean, it's hard to get that play off because you better be, every DB coach and every DB better have their guys on alert that some fishy might be happening here.
Something fishy.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
So I got a couple of questions here. What is the worst stadium that you've ever had that you ever had to play in?
Worse in terms of what is the question? Like, there's a lot of worse stadiums, weather-wise, facility-wise, fan-wise. There's so many.
So I'm just going to assume any Jets, any Bills, any, no offense, Justin, Colts, those are the worst fans. I'm just going to assume that. So let's, because in all seriousness, we all have our idea of which teams have the worst fans. Like, they don't hide it. They boost Santa Claus. They throw batteries at you. They try to fight you in the stands just for wearing the opposing team's jersey. So, we can kind of tell what teams have bad fans, but let's go facility-wise.
Okay. That would go back to my rookie year, and I hate to say it, back in my hometown playing against the Browns. Cleveland Municipal Stadium was god-awful. You know what I mean? And I grew up a Browns fan, and it was a great home field advantage, but the field that's the same field that Danny tore his Achilles that game. You know what I mean? Because they had just put the side in from baseball. And the locker room was so small, we had to get dressed in like flights, So defense would go first, then they come outside, then the offense would go in, they'll get changed, So they made it very uncomfortable for the visiting team, which is kind of funny to me. A lot of times you make the visiting team pissed off, they want to come out and beat the hell out of you, So I would have made it like luxurious in there, make it real comfortable, put pink on the walls and stuff like that, trying to calm the team down that were coming in there. But no, that was probably the worst facility-wise that we played in. Chicago wasn't much better. The old Chicago field, it was old. Like, and then, me coming from Penn State, I mean, we at Penn State already going up to almost 100,000 people at that point. Facility was so incredible. But to go to some of those stadiums and be like, damn, this is the NFL? It was kind of crazy.
So let's talk about the weather, because you mentioned that as well. A lot has been made, at least this year, that teams are starting to catch on that the Dolphins have a huge home field advantage, especially at the beginning part of the year, where not only is it super hot, but they have a shaded sideline and the team does not. And I think it was either ESPN or CBS that they had a diagram on the TV that had the two different temperatures at the same time. Miami's was like 30 degrees cooler. I know that's a huge home field advantage, but do you think the NFL is going to step in and be like, hey, you really can't have, two different temperatures on the sidelines for the home team versus the visiting team. You think, are they going to step in to do anything about that, or are they just going to be like, listen, it's Miami, it's their home field. They've had this advantage for years. Like, nobody has said anything till now. Like, are they going to leave it be, or what do you think is going to happen with that?
Is Buffalo going to heat up our side when we go to Buffalo in December? Are they going to give us some sunshine?
Their new stadium that they're having built in Buffalo. One thing I noticed is it doesn't have a dome.
Damn right it won't. That's their advantage, man.
Yeah.
So that's our advantage. We work out in that weather, man. I'm gonna tell you this: it's hot on both sides. It really is. It's just not as hot on our side than it is theirs. The Dolphins actually did a sun study to realize how they want to do that canopy on the roof to figure out where the shade, where the sun would be, especially in the fall. And sure enough, that's the same side we're always on, though. So we just got lucky pretty much. They might have made the canopy a little bigger if it wasn't that way, but that's the same side we've always been on. We haven't changed sides just because of that. The canopy, that's what the shade it provides. But we also provide the other teams with, mist machines, air conditioning over there. Yep. They can bring whatever they want to try to stay cool. But when they get on the field, it doesn't matter. It's really on the field where they feel the heat when you're running around, because you're sitting down, you got air conditioning, you got fans blowing on you. That's not the big problem. So the fact that they're standing or sitting in the sun the whole time is nothing. When they're out there running around that humidity, that's when it gets to their ass.
Yeah, and honestly, the joke's on you guys. The joke's on Miami. You're pulling this on your own self. With all this firepower you have and all these games you're winning, you're about to have so many primetime games that the sunlight's not even going to matter.
Not going to be a factor, is it? It's not going to be a factor, man. But unless next year we get some primetime games early in the season, it's still 90 degrees at 8 o'clock at night, so it don't matter, bro.
Yeah. Those lights are still getting hot.
That's right.
So the Dolphins, we talked earlier about all the draft picks we got from the Trey Lance deal, but we didn't touch upon the fact that Miami actually lost a first-round draft pick this year for tampering. And I ain't mad. Like, as a fan, listen, why were you tampering? For Tom Brady and what's his name? Sean Payton. So you were tampering for what's considered the greatest quarterback in NFL history. And before you had Mike McDaniel, one of the top coaches in the game. So, like, if you're going to tamper, like, go all the way, and that's what they did. So I don't care that we lost a first-round draft pick for tampering. But, Mike, as an outsider looking in, I feel like every team tampers with NFL players before the tampering period is actually officially beginning. Is that true, or is that just a perception that fans have?
Well, you know what? Most of these guys are really good friends. You know what I mean? Or they were teammates at Penn State, at Georgia, at Alabama, at Florida State, So they're always bugging, in their friends or teammates, old former teammates' ears about, come play with me, man. You know what I mean? You get a chance. Or a lot of them have the same agents, So there's tampering that goes on all the time. Our tampering, obviously, from what the commissioner demise was, unheard of type of tampering. So I would not, condone that type of deal. But yeah, tampering happens all the time because you always are in communication, especially nowadays, with guys that, played with, that knows a friend of a friend, the whole nine. So tampering happens all the time.
Okay. And that's how I feel as an outsider looking in. Like, I feel like that happens all the time, that it's not really a big deal. But like you said, Miami kind of did go like above and beyond.
They did. They did. That's what they found. They did. They did.
I told, so I've got two kids. I've got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. And I've always told them, if don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Correct. If you're going to come and do something stupid, just accept your punishment like a grown adult and move on.
Yeah. So my mom used to tell me when I was driving, drive according to your pocket. All right. Drive according to your pocket. If you want to speed, you better.
Yeah, I would have been riding my bike to school.
I was going to say, I wish my mom would have told me that when I was younger, because I donated some money to the county.
Hey, somebody's got to pay it, right? Somebody's got to pay for parks and recreations.
So, excuse me, I got a couple of quick hit questions here for you. As we're getting ready to wrap this up. in your opinion, do you think Tyreek Hill will break the single season record for most receiving yards this year?
What's the record?
I think it's 2026, I think.
Yes,
I was held by Calvin Johnson.
Yes, he will.
All right.
He's gonna go. He's probably. Well, you know what? I hate predicting because I don't want to like wish anything bad on him. But the way the tear that he's on and the way Tua's playing, he's unstoppable, man. He really is. So I think he will. Yes.
Yeah. All the noise he was making in the preseason and his podcast, like he was getting a bad rap, but nobody's talking about it now because he's not only has he lived up to every penny the Dolphins have paid for him and are paying him, and then some. Like he's helped that offense, not just, with his play, but because of his play, what it's allowed the others around him to do. And I think, there's nobody better for Jalen Waddle to learn to play at that high of a level right now than Tyreek Hill, because those two players are so similar in size, stature, skill, ability, speed, etc. So I love it. Tua Tagovailoa, is he a legitimate MVP candidate?
Yeah, he really is. But the thing about it is, the time missed might set him back a little bit.
Yep.
But if he had all these 8 games and playing at the level he's playing at, there's no doubt about it, he'd be in that conversation. I mean, obviously you got to always throw, Mahomes and those guys in there, but hell, Josh Allen, like we talked about earlier, is probably the front runner right now because he's playing unbelievable football. So yeah, Tua would be in that conversation if it weren't for some other, obviously, obvious situations. Look, I mean, I think we could be possibly, an 8-0 team if Tua doesn't get hurt. We did beat Buffalo head to head. I know they were crying about the weather and stuff, but so what? We're going to cry about it when we go up there and when it's cold. Yep. So imagine if we were like sitting there in the same record and, and we beat them, Tua would be right there in that conversation for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like he wasn't the front runner, but I believe he was in the conversation after the first 3 weeks before right. He saw the concussion. So I think he's a candidate. I don't know if he'll finish top 5 in votes, but I feel like that award is probably 1 year behind. So like he comes out and plays at a high level this year and then continues it into next year, I feel like he'll be towards the front of that list. Yes, Justin.
I will put Tyreek in that list this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tyreek continues doing what he's doing, and we continue winning. I'd put him on that list for sure.
Just real quick, I double checked just to make sure we were right. It was Calvin Johnson with 1,964 yards in 2012, and Tyreek is currently on pace for 2,042 yards. So he's on pace to be the first 2,000
yard receiver. Yes.
Worth every single penny we're paying.
1,000%.
in spades. This comes from a guy, Jerry, who's in my fantasy league. He's also a Dolphin fan. He wants to know, who would you rather have caught passes from, Dan Marino or Tua Tagovailoa?
Man, yeah, is he Jerry? You said his name is
Jerry Land.
Yeah, Jerry Land. Come on, man. I play with Dan the Man, bro, all day, every day. Yeah. I'll take Dan the Man all day, every day. I love Tua, man, but Dan took care of me. Dan afforded me the lifestyle I have these days, man. I can't crap on that. So
no. Listen. That's an easy answer. I think he was half joking, and then I told him I would ask, and he's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll ask. I don't care. Why not?" All right. So now I've got a couple just fun ones that I wanted to ask. The first one is: are you familiar with the game Keep, Trade, Cut?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 players or 3 names.
You're going to hate this game, OJ. Just so you know.
You're not going to like. I'm going to give you 3 names. You get to keep one of these guys. You have to trade one of these guys, and then you have to cut one of these guys.
Oh, wait. All right. Hold up a sec. They're not Dolphin players, are they?
So
I work for the Dolphins. You know I work for the Dolphins, right? So don't get me in trouble.
So none of these guys are currently playing for the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, cool.
Okay?
Cool.
So, which makes it even more fun. Because they played with you.
So now we're losing friendships.
So keep trade cut. Richmond Webb, Zach Thomas, or Trace Armstrong.
Come on, man. Are you serious with those guys?
Listen, I couldn't put Dan Marino on there because he's the easiest keep in the world. So,
all right. Let's see.
Justin, you pull up the little graphic?
Oh, man. All right. So here's my reasoning for everything. I will cut Trace because at the end of his career, you got to figure out a way to get rid of older players. He's playing at a high level. So I will cut Trace later in his career, not, when he was at his height.
That's
I
fair.
would trade Richmond because my Dolphins would get the most value for that trade, probably a couple first round picks. And I would keep Zach Thomas because, hell, he's Zach Thomas.
So those are the only keep trade cut I had. Those three players. Like I said, I couldn't go with Dan Marino. That's the easiest keep in the world, right? Like,
man, you put me on the spot. I hope my boy, I hope Trace doesn't I cut Trace. He's gonna be mad as hell at me.
Your phone's gonna be ringing. Trace is calling.
Yeah.
All right.
Stuff,
so
man.
I have two more questions that are not on the show sheet, but these are just for my general knowledge. Like, they don't mean a whole lot to anybody else, but they tend to cause arguments among people. Okay. Pineapple. Are you a pineapple on the pizza guy, or are you throwing that in the trash?
Yeah, definitely no Hawaiian pizza for me. Definitely
Okay.
No. Too sweet.
I'm knocking you down. You might have fallen to top 6. I'm just
I like it's gotta be pizza's gotta be saucy, spicy, salty. You know what I mean? It can't be sweet. So
okay. And then
now wait. No, I dropped because of that. Damn.
I like the savory sweet spice. So, like, I like to do pineapple with jalapenos.
Well, damn.
Yeah, it's good.
You might as well eat that on the toilet, man. Go right through you, bro.
I did 8 years. I did 8 years in the Marine Corps. There's nothing that can go into my stomach that's just going to hurt me at this point.
I call that carp belly. You got a carp belly. I'll feel you on that.
That military food killed anything inside me.
There's more than one reason why the show's called Toilets and Titles.
Well, I get it. That makes sense now. If I put 2 and 2 together now,
George just fits right in.
And then my last question, and I don't know if Justin has any, but my last one is Die Hard. Do you consider that a Christmas movie?
Hell no.
You're going to top 7.
Damn. Damn, I'm moving down like I'm not even moving up like George and Wheezy. I'm moving down. You know what I mean?
Listen, some people like it as a Christmas movie. Some people say it is. Some people say it ain't. 2 questions that they can cause fights depending on how strongly you feel about it. But I just wanted to ask, just for knowledge. Justin, do
you like Hawaiian pizza and Die Hard as a Christmas movie?
I mean, it's about an estranged father coming home for the holidays who has to save his wife from a terrorist. Like, that screams Christmas.
Yeah, was the terrorist Santa Claus?
No, but is Santa Claus a terrorist?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The movie was.
I mean, he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows
right.
when you're
well,
awake.
that's true. He knows when you're awake. Yeah,
yeah.
He comes down the chimney like a crook. Yeah.
I mean, if you think, like, if you want to get literal about it, like, yeah, Santa Claus is kind of like,
creepy.
He's like, he is kind of a creep.
Yeah, he's creepy for sure.
So,
but if you're watching, Santa Claus is not a creep. Like, Santa Claus is.
So, OJ, you know how you said that your wife is the quarterback of your real estate business? So my wife is our executive producer. I kind of titled her that, but she's got a comment here. She wants to know what your favorite football movie is.
Oh, man, there's some good ones out there.
There's a backstory to that. Her and I had a bit of an argument earlier today because obviously I love sports movies, and she wants to claim that they all have the same meaning at the end of the day, and they're all pretty much the same movie.
Yeah, there's some good ones. My favorite football movie, I don't know if I have a favorite. I remember back in the day, All the Right Moves. Tom Cruise was really good. Any Given Sunday's a really, really good movie. My boy Bo, my best friend, was in The Replacements. So but I think the one that I look at and I see more realistic is Any Given Sunday. There was a lot of things in that movie that were like spot on in the way they did. Oliver Stone did a hell of a job with it. He had a lot of people that actually were NFL players or NFL execs and player personnel guys that actually contribute to that movie. So that movie was pretty solid.
It's Remember the Titans for me, man.
That was a great one too.
Bills.
Denzel, that was outstanding. And it's a feel good movie. But I base my football movies. I guess I look at football movies a little different because I look at how real they are and how spot on they are and how much I can relate to them. Remember the Titans was great. One of my other favorites one is Woodlawn. The Tony Nathan story was outstanding. You seen that one yet?
Yep. And
that's a really, really good one. Growing up in Alabama, man. So.
And Grader was a good one. As a Colts fan, Grader, the one about that offensive lineman that got drafted and unfortunately lost his life before he got a chance to play for the Colts. But
it's called Grader.
It's called Grader. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have checked that out. Check that out.
It's another feel good one. But Uncle Steve, he's our Patreon. He's our number one fan. He said that you moved up on his list.
That's what's up. I appreciate him. I needed somebody, man. I mean, George killed me. He dropped me quick. He dropped me like a bad pass.
You're still in the top 5. I can make an argument. I can make an argument for top 4. I'm busting your bubbles.
Am I flickering to you guys?
I'm sorry?
Is my picture flickering?
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
All right, bet.
No, you're good.
All right, gents. I gotta get on my Twitter space. I'm already late with my partners, man.
Absolutely. Man. Appreciate you, man.
We were just about to wrap it up. OJ, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time. This went a little longer than expected, but I hope you had a good time.
Oh, I had a blast, man. That was so much fun, man. That was so much fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, OJ.
All right. Take care, boys.
Yep.
See ya. And what an interview. That was absolutely fantastic. Justin, thank you for joining me tonight with this interview.
Hey, dude, you surprised me with it last night, and I was like, immediately I was excited because I was already excited for you because I knew this was like an interview of a lifetime for you. So I'm super glad that you're able to get this lined up. So grateful to you for getting it lined up, but then also for hooking me up with this invite, man. I really appreciate that.
No problem. So OJ, I told them before we went live. So this is a little peek behind the curtain for the people still watching. I like I mentioned earlier, I came from New England. My whole family is Patriot fans. My brother, my dad, my mother, my cousins. It's New England Patriot fans. I didn't really get into football till we moved to Florida, and when we moved down here, like it was the 90s. It was 91, 92. Dolphins were a pretty good team at that point in time, and OJ McDuffie is definitely one of the reasons I became a Dolphin fan. So I didn't expect us to be able to get him to come on. I just reached out, asked, and he said yes. And I ain't gonna lie, I've been like on the inside almost all interviews. So this was absolutely fantastic. Definitely a bucket list. I told you earlier, if we get Dan Marino on, I'm retiring after that.
Okay. So we will work really hard to effort that.
What's that?
So we're going to work really hard to effort that. We figured out what it takes to get rid of you.
But yeah, all time, definitely one of my top 5 favorite all time Dolphins players, and I've been a fan for over 20 years. And it was funny because I didn't get a chance to bring up this stat to OJ, but he retired in 2000. And since he retired, the Dolphins have only been to the playoffs 3 times. So not only is he responsible for the majority of the good years of the Dolphins in the 90s, and he's the sole reason the Dolphins never had a sub 500 team. Like without him, basically the Dolphins hadn't gone to the playoffs. Like they don't go to the playoffs. So
I was going to tell him that he has 44 more receptions than Bob Hayes, and he also had his best season was 29 more catches and 170 more yards than Lynn Swan's best season. So there's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame that have certain numbers that don't line up even as good as OJ's. So, like, I get maybe some people might think that it's kind of a stretch or something, but honestly, the guy, he put up numbers consistently for 9 straight years and played at a really high level. And he's one of the reasons that Dan Marino's in the Hall of Fame. Like, I'm not saying he wouldn't have done it had OJ not been there, but he was there and he caught those balls. So he was a big part of that. Like, so there is an argument to be said there. And I know Lori probably said it more for personal reasons because he was a great guy and came on the show and he was awesome. But yeah, he had the numbers too.
Yeah, he's definitely a key contributor to those teams in the 90s, no doubt. Are we still recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and I'll let you wrap it up. If you want to talk about where people can follow us. Oh, you know what? He left so fast. I want to go ahead and plug
his charity,
the One Foundation, one more time.
Yep.
Right? Like,
it's right there.
Yep. Go ahead. If you can donate $5-10 to the Catch 81 Foundation, please do. It's a nonprofit organization ran by OJ McDuffie. As he said on the show, it goes towards helping underprivileged children in the Miami area. I'm actually going to, and I got an idea. I want to talk to you offline about this, Justin. I don't want to bring it up right now, but I'm going to make a donation to them probably on Friday once I get paid. I'm going to send them a little bit of money. But if you can like send something to them, go for it. If not, like if you want to do something charitable, like I said on the show, like the most valuable thing you can give somebody else is your time. Because there's only so much of that each person has. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a big charity guy, constantly giving to different charities. I run a charity that donates thousands of dollars to Toys for Tots every year with myself and Jason. So big charity guy. I'll never stop talking about how we should be able to help those who are less fortunate than us. And it doesn't have to be just a monetary, like you could give $10, walk away, and it means absolutely nothing to you. But if you could give your time, like that's a lot more valuable than that 10 or 15 or $20 that you gave. And then also I want to plug OJ's podcast. Again, it's a weekly podcast at the Fish Tank, Dolphin Tales from the Deep, as part of the Miami Dolphins Podcast Network. The Fish Tank 81 is their Twitter handle. You could follow OJ McDuffie at OJ McDuffie 81 on Twitter. Justin, I think we covered everything here, my friend.
Yeah. So just real quick, don't forget you can check us out on all the different formats: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Twitch, Facebook, and Spotify. Our Facebook page is called When a Family Breaks because we also do we buy and sell cards and memorabilia. Toiletstotitles.com. And of course, patreon.com/toiletstotitles. You can see all the different levels down there at the bottom if you're really that interested. But mostly, we just want to thank the Patreons. You guys have helped get us to a great level here, and we're going to be able to continue to bring more guests, better guests, and it's just gonna. I mean, I don't know if it can get much better than that, though. Let's be honest. OJ, that was amazing. So, but we're gonna try. We're gonna keep trying. So, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you all. We're out.
Hands up.